Fellow patriots, you're about to hear some facts that will scare the daylights out of you, and I promise you, all I offer is the truth. A truth that can save your life and the life of your family. A truth that will set you free. If you choose to ignore this warning, you risk losing everything, including your life. I don't get scared by much. Heck, I've been in close combat, and yet the facts I'm about to expose won't let me sleep, because they're irrefutable evidence of a crisis unlike any other in history, a catastrophe that will overshadow Katrina, 9/11, Pearl Harbor, the Great Depression, even the Civil War is on the forefront. The crisis will be the knife in the heart of this great nation, and as you'll soon see, it's barreling down on us like a freight train in just 10 months or less. The warning signs of this emergency are everywhere, from the price of gold to the S&P downgrade to chaos in Greece. These events signal that this crisis is about to blow up in our faces, but somehow 95% of Americans still haven't fully woken up. But you will, the moment you understand what I call the financial Hiroshima. Someone who spent 16 years of my life practicing and teaching survival, and who spent the past 4 years researching the political and economic realities in this country since the financial debacle of 2008. And most importantly for you, a patriot who cares deeply about your future. And I'm here to inform you that the financial Hiroshima is a nuke far more dangerous than anything North Korea is planning. It's aimed at every American across this nation. You won't hear about this ticking time bomb on your nightly news. The president won't dare mention it in his press conferences. In fact, the media does everything in their power to distract you from it. Why? Because of the panic it would cause. But personally, I'd rather see you scared and alive than ignorant and vulnerable. Because unless you take some very specific steps, it is virtually guaranteed that you will be left penniless, hungry, and fighting desperately for your life. If you want to avoid that, you need to act right now as time is running out. Because this catastrophe, as I'll explain, is mathematically certain to happen in the very near future, whether you believe in it or not. As you can imagine, the information you're about to hear is life and death information for you and your family, which means you need to remove anything that could distract you from it. Turn off your cell phone, close all other tabs, lock the door, and take notes. You'll be needing them. Before we begin, we need to consider a few startling facts happening in the world around us. Fact 1. 26 once bustling American cities are now bankrupt for the first time in history. Fact 2. Warren Buffett, John Paulson, and numerous other billionaires are now dumping U.S. stocks as fast as they can sell them. Fact 3. Germany, Switzerland, and Denmark are in the process of pulling all of their gold out of the United States. Fact 4. Russia, China, and Brazil are moving quickly towards creating a new central bank with one purpose: to replace the dollar. While China and Japan are now boycotting the U.S. dollar for trading purposes, these are financial bombshells that should have the hair on your neck standing up. Why are so many well-informed entities trying to get out of the U.S. economy? It's simple. They know our country's on a collision course, and they're bracing themselves for the impact and trying to avoid the blast. Here's what I mean. Take a good look at what you see in front of you. This is the U.S. debt clock. In real time, here you see our national debt, and here you see our total debt. Can you keep up with the numbers? I didn't think so. Guess what? Neither can your government. What you're actually seeing is your government spending approximately $41,000 they don't have every single second. The U.S. debt, as you can see, is spinning out of control. In fact, we've actually added $12.5 million to the deficit since you started watching this video. 10 years ago, I saw the same clock, and I could actually see the numbers ticking away. Today, the numbers are growing faster than the eye can see, and it's getting faster every day. What do you think will happen when this ticking time bomb of debt reaches the fuse? We'll get to that in a moment. Our government uses several accounting tricks to make this number look smaller. But let's grant them that it is actually 16 trillion. Do you have any idea what that means? If you were alive during the days of Jesus and you added $1 million in debt every single day, you still wouldn't have $1 trillion. We have 16 of those. Stack $100 bills until you reach 16 trillion, and that stack will weigh more than 100 Chrysler buildings and reach 89 miles high. But here's where this gets worse. This debt just blew by a very dangerous red line. If you look at the total debt here, which includes the debts of all the citizens of the United States and programs like Social Security and Medicare, the debt has actually become impossible to repay. Yes, I said impossible to repay. Meaning, if you taxed every single American citizen and business, including Apple, Microsoft, and Intel, at a rate of 100%, there would still not be enough money to pay it all back. These are dangerous levels that the country cannot sustain for long. The U.S. is a body. This is a cancer. With every tick of the clock, the cancer spreads. Now it has overwhelmed the body. We sit in the waiting room, waiting to hear the news that it's all over. Thomas Jefferson once said that if he could take away one power from the U.S. government, it would be their power to borrow. Now you know why. America, a relatively young nation, which might have some of you asking, how did we get here? How did things get so bad? I'll tell you, it didn't happen overnight. It happened over decades. While most of the public had the wool pulled over their eyes, it all started one day, the day our country was hijacked. Who did it? A cabal of bankers hungry for power with endless appetite for wealth. Most don't understand that they're not under the control of any government. They create governments. They have settled numerous third world countries with unpayable debt, forcing millions into famine and disease. And then they set their sights on the real prize, the U.S. economy. They hatched a plan that could rig the entire U.S. economy in their favor, and they succeeded in a single day. It was December 23rd, 1913. You'll notice that's pretty close to Christmas, so most of Congress was already on vacation, which meant only a handful of compromised politicians were there when a new bill went to the vote. And on that day, in the dead of night, the bankers won. They successfully put in place new financial law called the Federal Reserve Act. And from that day on, our money changed. What actually happened that day was the bankers injecting a poison into this country, causing a slow but steady process that guarantees the destruction of our society at some date in the future. My research of confidential documents reveals that that date is now upon us. Their weapon, a new entity they called the Federal Reserve. Maybe you've heard of it. What you don't know is that name is a lie. They aren't federal, and they have no reserves. Yet, they issue the money. Before this law was passed, our money was as good as gold. Every dollar had a certain quantity of gold in reserve. You give the bank $1, they give you back $1 of gold. That's called real money with value. From 1913 on, $1 was no longer $1. It became a Federal Reserve note. Take $1 out of your wallet. That's exactly what's written across the top of it. Most don't realize what that means, so listen carefully. A Federal Reserve note is a debt note, a debt to those greedy international corporate bankers. Get this straight, the Federal Reserve is not part of our government, but they strapped dynamite to our government, turning it into a debt-creating machine. They did it in Europe too, by the way, so don't think you're exempt. Think about what we just said. The money in your wallet, the money in your bank account, the money in your IRA is all debt. Debt is the only way money is created now. It's created by loaning it to the economy. So $1 to you is a debt to them. Sure, you can use it to purchase goods and services for a while, but as a nation, it all has to be paid back with interest in the future. Best part, they can print billions of new debt money with the push of a keystroke. No U.S. mint needed. And now the entire U.S. government now needs to purchase these debt notes just to survive. But here's where things really get nasty. This debt needs to be paid back with interest. Only thing is, we don't have the interest to pay it back. Why? Because that extra money has not been created yet. So we have to go back to the Federal Reserve, get down on our knees, and beg them to create even more debt notes. so we can pay back the old debt. Then those debt notes need to be repaid. And if you know anything about compound interest, you know that this interest will grow fast. This isn't just a vicious cycle, it's a cycle of doom. Fast forward to the Reagan administration. 70 years into this process, the investigative Grace Commission he launched in 1982. The commission found that 100%, yes, 100% of the income tax we pay is, quote, absorbed solely by interest on the federal debt and by federal government contributions to transfer payments. In other words, all individual income tax revenues are going to pay this interest and debt. This massive Ponzi scheme has lasted for decades, a scandal bigger than any in history, going totally unchecked, totally unpunished, and totally unnoticed. But we're starting to notice because the jig is almost up and the Ponzi house of cards is about to come crashing down. Why should you care? Because it's forcing them to print like mad, and every time they print a dollar, your dollar loses a bit of power, meaning your dollar buys a little less, meaning you have to pay more for everything you want and need. And we're reaching the point that your money will be as good as toilet paper. Just look at this graph to see how quickly this process is happening. These numbers come from the U.S. Census Bureau. Now you know why movies and a drink don't cost a nickel anymore. Now you know why your paycheck isn't leaving any money at the end of the month. And now you know why a third of the country can't survive without food stamps. And it's getting worse, way worse, because the Fed must now print $400 billion each month just to keep the Ponzi scheme going. Right now they're delaying a total collapse of the dollar for just a few more months, like putting kerosene into the fire to put it out. Because they have no other choice now, they're going for broke. There is no way out. This isn't my prediction, it's just simple math. And the moment the dollar has even come close to collapse, we're almost there. Every country across the globe will dump the dollar en masse. At that point, the music stops and the party's over. And we all experience in one swift swoop the end of the dollar, which is the same day we'll begin to realize that our money controls everything, from our relationships, to the food we eat, to where we live, and if we live. Allow yourself to imagine what it would be like. Your football or soap is suddenly interrupted with this. You try to click off, but it's on every channel. You begin to realize this isn't a test. A headline, a news anchor, in a shaky voice says, a sudden collapse of the dollar today occurred at 9:15 a.m. I repeat, the dollar has collapsed. The TV cuts to the president, who tries to calm the fears about the announcement. He fails miserably, as everyone can see the fear written all over his face. After the press conference, he takes no questions. Instead, he's quickly rushed to a bunker underground. You see clips of stockbrokers on the NYSE in shock and in shambles. The markets close in the wake of the news to prevent industrial traders from shorting the entire stock market. Next, they announce that all banks have implemented an emergency shutdown to prevent millions rushing to get anything they have left out of the system. You're told every major utility has now become a potential target for terrorists trying to take advantage of the opportunity. They must be shut down as well. And that's when the TV suddenly turns off. You stand there in silence for a few seconds before the lights go out. You look out the window and see a ripple effect. Your entire neighborhood, in one moment, goes black. The homes, the street lamps, the traffic lights, everything. The entire grid has been officially shut down. You try to get in your car to get to the grocery store for some supplies, but it's complete gridlock for miles. When you finally get there, the doors are barred shut. You peek inside and see rows of empty shelves. You have some food in your fridge, but you realize it will spoil in days with no power. The dried goods in the pantry aren't enough to last more than a few days. A thought crosses your mind. You might not be the only one in the neighborhood who has this problem. And you're right. You start to hear sounds outside your home. Looters going from store to store and door to door. You lock everything. Then you hear the cops, sirens, and then tanks. You begin to realize that your block has turned into a war zone. Your wife and kids are terrified. They look at you, but you have no answers. A battery-powered transistor radio announces robberies, shootings, murder, and even rapes are going on in every town in America, all simultaneously. Law enforcement is stretched so thinly, they can't keep up with the tornado of criminal activity. The National Guard, SATO troops, even Russian soldiers are brought in to try and restore some order. The confrontations with the law are ugly. Rubber bullets fly, then real ones. You stay inside to survive, because you don't know what else to do. But after a week, you realize you have a bigger problem. All you have left is a single can of tuna, your last meal. You will be forced to split it 4 ways with your family. Everyone's crying as they eat it, knowing it's the end of the food, unless something changes fast. But things only get worse. Your family begins to become dehydrated, lightheaded, weak. Your children can hardly get out of bed from the fear and the hunger. You can't even look them in the eye. And unfortunately, this is where most of the stories will end. Is this really possible? Your government seems to think so. You may have heard that the Department of Homeland Security recently purchased 1.7 billion rounds of hollow point bullets. Remember, Homeland Security is there to secure the homeland only, which means these bullets are meant for the American public. Now you know why. You may have heard that massive troop movements, including urban drills, are taking place in every major U.S. city, along with foreign troops now working in conjunction with local police for the first time in history. You may have heard that Obama recently ran through the National Defense Resources and Preparedness Executive Order, which gives the government total martial law powers over the public in an emergency. Now you know why.